the studio for today's conversation is Babatunde Bamigui. He's the head of Legal Enforcement and Regulations Department, National Data Protection Commission, NDPC. It's good to have you in Nigeria today.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Also with us for the conversation is Hanniel Jafaru. He's an IT and cybersecurity expert. It's good to have you once again.
Always a pleasure.
Now, I'll start with you, Babatunde. What's the significance of, Data Privacy Day, and why is it important for Nigeria to join, so to say, or join this commemoration?
All right. Thank you very much. We're excited to be here. Just to go straight to the question, and let me say, the organization is Nigeria Data Protection Commission. It is important for Nigeria to join this Privacy Day for many reasons, but primarily because it is something that is more or less recognized in our Constitution. If you look at Section 37 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, it talks about the privacy of a citizen, and privacy encompasses so many things, and particularly now, data. All over the world, people are talking, just like the introduction that you gave, people are talking about privacy. There is something about a country, it is regarded as adequacy of data protection. What does that mean? That means you have the law, you have the institution in place, you have the law through which citizens can enforce their rights. And what data, maybe the viewers don't even know what this data is. That is your identity. Now, there should be an adequate data protection framework in your country before you can even talk about governance, before you can even talk about foreign direct investments. Because without people trusting you with their data, they cannot trust you with their assets. In fact, if they are going to deal with you, if they're going to have any transaction with you, it will be like this allegory of metaphor of dining. If you're going to dine with the devil, you dine with a long spoon.
Don't even dine at all.
Or you don't even dine at all. Now, data privacy and protection comes to redefine the trust space in the digital economy, making sure that data controllers obey the law, they respect the rights of data subjects. And if Nigeria is going to participate in about $16 trillion global digital economy, or participate effectively, it must prioritize data privacy and protection. And today is really very significant. Why? Because I think today is makes it the 44th anniversary of that is yearly anniversary of the event globally. It started in Europe, 1981. So without Nigeria participating, we will just be left behind, and while the rest of the world moves forward.
Thank you very much for that opening remark. Now, Hanniel, we talk about data privacy. What exactly is data privacy, and why is it crucial in today's digital age?
So data privacy is more like a subset of data protection. It largely helps us to understand how organizations collect our data, what they use our data to do, how they store our data, the mechanisms they use in ensuring that unnecessary techniques and strategies have been put in place to ensure that our data is secured. And as it has rightly said, our data is actually our life, because research has proven that from a surname and your date of birth, it can be streamlined to your personality. Not your personality in terms of character, but your person. So if someone has access to that kind of data, I definitely need to know how he's making use of it. I need to know how he's storing it, because if that data finds its way in the hands of the wrong person, it means that I become a victim of of things that I did not bargain for. So now it's important. The truth of the matter is we are in the digital space. We are getting to the digital space, and international trades are necessary. There is now the need for what is known as e-trust or digital trust. Our corporate organizations now need to ensure that whosoever they are dealing with, I'm talking about corporate business to business now, whosoever they are dealing with, they can trust the person with the data of the customer or the client that they have. So if, for example, as an organization, I am in custody of the data of citizens in Europe, and I want to deal with a company in Nigeria, and that business would warrant us exchanging data. It means that they have to ensure that they trust the company in Nigeria to be able to deal or go into business with, so that they don't fall short of the regulations in Europe. Why we in Nigeria we are just doing what we would like to do. So the essence of digital trust, the essence of NDPC and digital trust is essential for international trade. But again, it's also important for security reasons, especially cybersecurity. Data privacy techniques is one way we use in mitigating cybersecurity. So if an organization is embedding the necessary data privacy techniques, it helps in curtailing security. So if, for example, an organization's data gets breached, it means that they will not be able to have access to they may have access to the data, but they will not understand the context of the data. And the reason is because specific techniques have been put in place to either mask the data, tokenize the data, or ensure that the data is unreadable to the person that has the malicious actor that have been able to have access to the data.
Okay, now back to you, Babatunde. We'll talk about data privacy. Now, are there penalties for invading, because it's privacy, even though it's data? Are there penalties to invading someone's privacy, in the cyberspace?
Yeah, indeed, there are penalties. We have under our law from section 46. You begin to look at if you breach people's privacy. But our focus really is not about penalizing to begin with. We take people through remedial action. We impose remedial fee. It is when you become somewhat, let's say, recalcitrant that we go ahead to impose penalty. The penalty could be as high as 2% of your gross revenue the previous year, and again it could be as high as a jail term as well. That is the combination of your revenue. It could be 10 million naira. It could be, depends on your status in the ecosystem. But what we have been doing in the last 3-4 years is to make sure that the ecosystem understands what it means to protect people's privacy. Indeed, the challenge we have is that a lot of organizations tend to take security of data as privacy indeed, but the law imposes obligation on what kind of data you are to collect even to begin with. Apart from securing it, but do you even have rights to collect that data? Do you have rights to, for instance, ask someone about his or her sex life? Is it necessary for the purpose for which you are collecting the data? If I want to enter the premises, I need to put down my name. What kind of data are you collecting from me? But most organizations focus on, let me do security, put encryption, pseudonymize, anonymize, and all of those technical things which are important. But then you must first ask the question, am I doing this for the right reason? Am I limiting it to the purpose? Am I collecting enough? Is it accurate? And all of those other principles. Do I even have the lawful basis of collecting the data? Have I got the consent of the data subject? If I don't have the consent, do I have maybe the vital interest? That is, something serious is about to happen. Let's say it's an emergency. Then there is a vital interest. Am I into contract with the data subject as to enable me to have access to the data? Or there is a legal obligation, maybe there is a court order, as it were, or there is a public interest in, collecting this data, especially during the COVID-19. That is a good example of a public interest. And then, of course, what companies really love to rely on, the legitimate interest. So all of these come into play. And oftentimes, we tend to educate data controllers, that is, those who determine the purposes for which data is being processed. We tend to let them know that, look, you have to move beyond security. Of course, it's important. That is granted. You have to do all of that. But make sure you really have the interest of the data subject at heart. You have the interest of the country at heart. For instance, we're discussing the issue of, relocating and abroad and all of those jobs coming in and out. That involves data flows. What happens to our own startups if data move away from Nigeria without, proper regulatory oversight from the Commission? So all of these are things that may lead to penalty or may need some form of a remedial action. But ultimately, it is to protect the privacy and the interest of the data subject.
Now back to Jafaru. I know he talked about Babatunde here talked about invasion. If there are penalties, but what does it really mean? At what point can you say, okay, somebody's privacy has been invaded, and just tell us.
So now, when there is the concept of privacy from a personal perspective. Then there is the concept of privacy from a legal perspective. So from the legal perspective, the Act clearly states information that are considered to be private information, like your religion. It's private. Your sex, your name, your all those ethnicity. They are all as from the legal perspective. Now these are considered to be privacy information. So if somebody begins to poke nose and you don't, there is a concept, there is data concept where consent, before an organization would want to collect your data, they are expected to seek consent from you, and that consent should be given by you. So if that consent is not given and that data is collected, it's considered to be a breach of privacy. So we need to look at it from the dimension of personality, where you would want to say, okay, this aspect, I don't want to release it to anybody. Then we need to now look at it from the perspective of the legal angle, which has been enacted by the legislative arm, supported by the commission that was.
Well, before you go further, Hanniel, is there a way you can actually give your consent without, that is unintentionally?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so most persons usually, there is that terms privacy policy that is usually when you're registering probably let's take that popular money shark people guys, loan shark people. So when you need money, you need funds, and because of the emergency that is at hand, you really just want to do yes, without having to go through the privacy policy that is attached to
the terms and conditions.
The terms and conditions attached to, and that usually carries the privacy, some of the privacy information. You are expected to read that document and understand what they would use your data to do. But most of us don't read. We just want to click yes and go ahead.
Because you need the money.
In fact, there is this popular case of, I don't know if you remember the time where, one time that you would go online and there's a particular app you will snap and look at and see how old you will be in future. Now, the privacy policy of that particular app states that they can use your face to do adverts and share it with third party without your consent. So if by clicking you agree, it means you are consenting to that particular act. And many people did not read that document. They agreed to it, and the company used their data to do it.
I wish I could come in on that particular issue. Okay. Consent, of course, may be obtained by fraud or by deception, and it's not going to be a valid consent. It has to be informed consent. It is not consent by deception. The law is clear in that regard. You must make it express. You must, and it must be necessary. In fact, the data you are collecting in that regard must be necessary to achieve that purpose.
Well, is that deception? Because it was written there, just that you didn't read it.
No, you see, this is a fundamental right thing. So there is a limit. Even if that is why the law is beautiful. Section 24 is really very clear. Data minimization. If, for instance, I have given consent that you can use my data, the law still imposes obligation on you that you must minimize the data you collect. Because the law doesn't, how many people, we're speaking about artificial intelligence. How many people can actually interrogate and understand?
Because I was about to come to that part.
Yeah.
How aware are Nigerians of these, of their rights regarding data privacy and, the protection and all of that? How aware are Nigerians?
Indeed, I can see that the awareness is still at its infancy. It is still evolving. We still need to learn quite a number of things. I give you an instance. There was a case of a gentleman that, because of access, rights of access, he was able to get his money that was hanging in the bank for almost 10 years. They asked only, you had to rely on, okay, give me my record. Let me see what transpired on my account. It's my personal information. Meanwhile, this matter had gone to court for like 2 occasions. And at the judgment stage, and the matter was like, they couldn't proceed. Maybe the judges were transferred. But then a land of the Data Protection Act, okay, let me have access. That is right of access, which you now have. How many people are aware of that? How many people are aware of data portability? That you can move from one HMO, for instance, to the other. And then the data controller is collecting this data, must collect it in such a way that is useful to you when you are porting. Then the right to withdraw your consent at any time. The right not to be subject to a decision which is solely based on automated means, including artificial intelligence. For instance, a person can be denied employment because the computer said it's not a fit and proper person to carry out that. But then the law gives that there must be a room for human intervention. And then the right to object, the right to restrict processing. All of these are there. But how many people, just like you said, are aware? Today is a day, for instance, we have embarked on Adopt a School program, like a Catch Them Young, where we train students, pupils, tell them more about awareness. You can see people asking for their academic record. You go out there, people are commit suicide, become depressed just because they saw their name, that they have failed an examination. You can imagine the impact it is. But in our days, everybody sees what you have got. But these days, nobody should really post exam records, as it were, that, it can lead to embarrassment or, personal data, as it were.
No, Hanniel, now we are, technology is rising. So how can individuals, take, what steps can individuals take to protect their personal data, whether offline or online?
Okay, so one of the ways that, one of the steps individuals can take would be to ensure that most of the devices that they have are protected. Let's start from there. The devices that these data are resident in, they are residing in, those devices should be protected. But beyond being protected, they should have access control. And what does access control mean? It means it is my laptop. There should be a password. So with the password, I have access to the laptop. And that password should not be shared with those that you consider to be outside your sphere of influence or outside your jurisdiction, or people you think you trust. Another thing we need to put in place is encryptions. We need to begin to look at encryption to be something very, very important in our lives. We need to encrypt everything from our CVs that is resident in our hard drive to the document that is resident in the flash. We should not just buy any kind of flash. Let's buy flash that are encrypted, that has encryption technology built into them. And the reason is simple. If you buy a device that does not have encryption algorithm or encryption engine built into them, and that device, most persons share their flash with other persons, and you may not just pay attention to what they're using your flash to do. To you, they just want to use your flash to copy file. But one thing that can happen is that they can also copy out your files from the flash. And when they copy out your files from the flash, they will be able to see contents that is in the flash. So we have to begin to put in that measure. Then there is a place of intentionality, where you have to ensure that I am intentionally going to make sure that my information are not out there. Yeah, there are those general information that you can't shy away from, like those information we put on our that is needed to open, to register for specific social media accounts. But how about you ensuring that you don't let people know where you are at every point in time? Yeah, you want to snap picture and the picture is giving a background of the exact location. And there are some pictures, there are some applications that when you're using those applications to snap picture, you are actually, that picture actually has a geo-coordinate that shows the exact location that you are. So someone can actually extract the geo-coordinate of that picture and know where you were when you snap that picture. So these are things that we need to be intentional about, ensuring that we don't share them. It's not everything that is social media worthy. It's not everything that you must share on social media. It is the intentionality about yourself and your privacy that would make you not to share. It's not every matter that comes online. People now settle quarrel on. People now settle quarrel online, and it's sad. It's sad.
For just in 30 seconds, Babatunde, tell us, what does the future hold for data protection and privacy in Nigeria?
Well, thank you so much for that question. We are committed to building, to making data privacy the cornerstone of digital economy in Nigeria. We believe with what we are doing, the Commission currently, we are training data protection officers. We flagged that it's still ongoing. We are commencing with about 500 DPOs. We are anticipating that we hit our target of 500,000. And with such drive in place, with awareness, with the support, we have a very robust support from the presidency, His Excellency the President, our Honorable Minister, to the leadership of the Commission as well. We believe that the future is bright for data privacy and protection.
Thank you very much. Babatunde Bamigboye is Head of Legal Enforcement and Regulations Department, National Data Protection Commission. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts with us. And also had Hanniel Jafaru, is an IT and cybersecurity expert. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for
your contribution. And thank you for being part of the program. I'm Ikaria Clinton. Goodbye.